But sadly, we got some extremists on the left clearly preferring mob rule. We will lay this out tonight. We had last night an angry group of purported anarchists surrounding the home of our friend, fellow Fox News host Tucker Carlson. This is where he lives, his wife, his children. They tried to break down his door, vandalizing his house. Now, they were shouting threats through a bullhorn. His wife was inside alone, locked herself in a pantry, had to call the police. Coming up, we're going to respond to the continuing angry left-wing mob in this country. These are unacceptable tactics, and it better stop. Somebody's going to get hurt or worse, as I've been warning. Also tonight, we will show you how MSNBC, Conspiracy TV, Fake News CNN, once again cheerleading for Robert Mueller to find something, anything on Trump. By the way, the clearest evidence we have, they weren't too happy with you and Donald Trump on Tuesday night. We also have a message for Jim Acosta, conspiracy theorist Rachel Maddow tonight, and we'll show you the latest dirty trick tactics from the Democrats, including a plan to impeach Justice Kavanaugh. Yeah, they want to go back there. And just breaking moments ago, Rick Scott filed a lawsuit against Broward County. He should have. We'll explain it in detail and bring you important updates from the sad, horrific shooting. It affected a friend of this program in California. Stay tuned. It's time for a busy night. Breaking news, opening monologue. All right, you have heard me say this over and over again. There's no place for violence, threats, intimidation in the United States of America. Now, for years, many on the left have outright vilified President Trump, and by the way, anyone associated with him, any Republican, any conservative. We have seen it all throughout this election season. Nazi comparisons, racism, sexism, and really far worse. Prominent Democrats, Maxine Waters, Cory Booker, urging followers to get in other people's faces, the faces of their political opponents, and of course, create crowds, follow them into grocery stores and gas stations and department stores and tell them they're not welcome anywhere anymore. Get your crowds. Now we have some deranged far-left lunatics are following suit. Now, before the election, what did we see? DHS Secretary Nielsen run out of a restaurant. Sarah Sanders, with her kids, run out of not one but two restaurants. So, too, Senator Ted Cruz with his wife. Pam Bondi accosted at a movie theater. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, guy banging on his desk, following him through airports. Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao, his wife, with him, and literally accosted on a number of occasions. Kevin McCarthy, his office vandalized. Two Republican politicians punched in Minnesota. One victim, a serious concussion. The other, a woman. And we had just before the election packages, white powder mailed to the president, his son, Don Jr., his wife, Mattis, Ray, Gina Haspel. Fox News has also been a target of the mob. We just saw Brian Kilmeade. Well, he was stalked through the streets of New York City, harassed, followed in a subway, called out in a subway. Now, I've had more threats in my personal life you could ever imagine. I don't talk about it often. Last night, our friend Tucker Carlson targeted at his own home in Washington, D.C. Angry group, far-left extremists surrounding his house. His wife, home alone, having to barricade herself inside the house and calling the police. But not before the mob literally cracked his front door, throwing themselves against it, vandalizing his driveway and his car with spray paint, and shouting threatening messages over a bullhorn. This is your radical left-wing Democratic Party tonight.
You're outside your home, we want you to know we know where you sleep at night.
Mailbox.
We know where you sleep at night.
We know where you sleep at night.
Racist scumbag, please help. Racist scumbag, please help.
We know where you sleep at night? Mail bomb? Okay, those people do need to be arrested. This is illegal behavior and totally unacceptable. Now, thank God his children were not inside. We feel badly for his wife tonight. This mob needs to be put in jail. Now, another far-left group, they have doxed the personal information of Tucker and Coulter, yours truly. In other words, what they did in the course of the night well, related to, or they say they're related to, groups like Antifa and others. That's what they say. They published our home addresses online for everybody to see. Why? They're spurring threats, violence, intimidation. By the way, for me, I'm not living my life in fear. I'll be intimidated by nobody. No one's going to silence me. I've been through this for most of my career. I feel sorry for people that are now seeing what others have lived through for a long time. But I do have a serious warning. Nothing good is going to come out of this. This mob mentality has got to stop. Someone's going to get hurt or worse. Now, some of the Democrats, finally, even some on CNN and MSNBC, are speaking out against what happened to Tucker. And by the way, earlier tonight, Tucker thanked everyone on both sides of the aisle for their support. But with all due respect, they are a day late and they are $1 short. Remember, before the elections, Democrats were silent, crickets, following all the cases of mob rule against Sarah Sanders, Pam Bondi, Kirsten Nielsen. CNN was busy playing the word police, if you recall, chastising anyone who uses the term mob to describe a mob. Remember this.
When you see people like Ted Cruz getting chased out of restaurants by a mob.
Oh, you're not going to use the mob word here.
Oh, it's totally a mob. It is without a doubt. There's no other word for it. It's a go watch. Put up the video.
Mob. Stop.
That is mob behavior.
How many times has that happened?
Everybody stop. Matt, we already did that. We already said they weren't mobs. No, it's not mob behavior.
Yes,
it's people who are upset and they're angry with the way the country is going and the policies that these people. Will you let me finish, Matt, please, before you jump in? Okay.
The rhetoric on that channel has been so over the top, so insane, and it continues. Now, nobody deserves to be stalked, harassed, and threatened by an angry mob. Now, sadly, even one of their anchors is being threatened. We stand in solidarity with him tonight. We don't want everybody. Let me be very clear. Leave everybody alone. And I've been saying somebody's going to get hurt. It could be worse. This needs to be condemned on both sides of the aisle by every media outlet. And by the way, there's plenty of, vilification of political differences. I'm not against any free speech. Words are words. Threats are a very different thing. Let's not create the crowds. Let's not follow people, cabinet members, into department stores, gas stations, and so on, and tell them they're not wanted anywhere anymore, or to kick them, or we can't be civil. Let me tell you, if you're a conservative tonight, let me say this. And let's say you see somebody you don't like, politically, someone you disagree with. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. They're with their families. They're eating. Leave them alone. We don't want to be like these left-wing radicals. What we're now seeing is downright apocalyptic coverage from fake news, CNN, MSNBC. And by the way, when you say fake news or you say conspiracy TV or people chant that CNN sucks, they kind of do. But that's not a threat. That's an opinion. Those are words. And by the way, others, all of this conspiracies around Jeff Sessions' departure. They obviously, by the way, and the great indicator they weren't happy about Tuesday, they don't want to talk about the blue little trickles. So they're back to their old conspiracy theories. That means they're not happy with we, the people, again, and Donald Trump again. In other words, that the world was shocked again. They didn't get what they want. Many are now claiming that this move is an attempt to meddle with their golden goose, the Mueller witch hunt. Here you have it, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow. Get this. She is now actively promoting. This is NBC News. She says in interviews, she is a journalist. I say I'm a talk show host. Being a talk show host, I do news, I do opinion, I do straight interviews, I do debates, I give strong opinion. We're like the whole newspaper. When you say you're a journalist, you're supposed to be fair and balanced. You're supposed to give it right down the middle. She's not a journalist. Now she's partnered with MoveOn.org and the pro-Mueller protest. This is what she tweeted. It's happening. This is the break glass in case of emergency plan to protect the Mueller investigation. 5 p.m. local time. Protest tomorrow, Thursday, November 8th. We knew this would happen at some point. The day has arrived. This is the group she's supporting, MoveOn.org. In case you forgot, they're the group that put out, remember, General Betray Us, that ad? In 2004, they made an ad that compared George Bush to Adolf Hitler. This is the group that NBC wants to align themselves with. And by the way, there's a lot more than even that. I just picked this up before. President Bush, Adolf Hitler. Oh, filmmaker Michael Moore partners with them, and they want to, well, expletive punch Mitt Romney to burn this mother down. That's the group NBC, and conspiracy theorist Rachel Maddow is now helping to organize, promote radical leftist protests. Tom Brokaw, what's going to happen when someone gets hurt at your break the glass moment, led by Rachel? The on-air coverage was even more dramatic, even sicker. Take a look.
This is a slow motion, almost a self-coup, by which a president pulls power to himself that he's not supposed to have to protect himself.
And what we saw today is a kind of coup against the rule of law, a kind of action that you see in a tin pot dictatorship.
It has been a slow motion Saturday night massacre, starting with the firing of James Comey and now with the firing of the Attorney General.
Are we seeing a kind of a gangster mentality at the White House and trying to control the DOJ?
I really do think this is a national emergency. I don't think you can overstate the gravity of the situation, and it's incumbent upon, really everyone in public life to respond to this like it's an emergency. People, the broad public, this is the time to maybe take to the streets.
The president's panicked firing of his attorney general today has moved Donald Trump one step closer to impeachment.
They obviously got an opinion out of the White House counsel, and they knew exactly what they were doing. As I said earlier, it was just planned like a murder.
Now, of course, the mainstream media, they are very worried tonight. According to reports, Mueller is now writing his final report. The probe should finally be coming to an end. No evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. We do have evidence of Hillary Clinton paying for Russian lies, and that became a fraud on a FISA court. That also became the basis to lie to the American people to help Hillary win, propagated by top people in the intel community. And then, of course, they used it as a basis of circular reporting so that they can then get Robert Mueller appointed, with Comey leaking. Now, regardless of the outcome or the timeline of Mueller's witch hunt, Democrats in the House, they're still planning to wage a never-ending full-scale investigation into everything. Let me make you a promise tonight. We will be watching every day. Let's see if they do anything for you, we the people. And by the way, they just want to attack Trump. They don't care about anything else. That's their top agenda item. Gerald Nadler, he'll likely be the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Well, he's actually overheard on a train from New York to D.C. bragging about his plan to launch full-scale investigations again after 2 years into Russian collusion and plot to impeach Judge Kavanaugh. Good luck with that. Now, he's not the only Democrat plotting endless investigations. Likely incoming House Intel chair. He's really the biggest liar in Congress. Adam Schiff wants to be a TV host on MSNBC. He has similar plans. Take a look.
While the Republicans walked away from the investigation, the Democratic minority has continued, and we've been bringing witnesses in, and we've been learning more. And that work won't stop when we take the majority, but we will be able to get answers the Republicans were unwilling to pursue, records that the Republicans wouldn't ask for. The question, though, that I don't know whether Mueller has been able to answer, because I don't know whether he's been given the license to look into it, is were the Russians laundering money through the Trump Organization? And that will be a very high priority to get an answer to, for the reason that if they were doing this, it's not only a crime, but it's something provable, something that the Russians could hold over the head of the President of the United States.
Oh, and let's not forget about Congresswoman, Impeach 45, reclaiming my time, Maxine Waters. She's now hoping to become the next House Financial Services chairwoman. Instead of working for the betterment of all Americans, she is plotting revenge, impeachment, and as the head of that committee, she would be overseeing Wall Street. Take a look.
They say, Maxine, please don't say impeachment anymore. And when they say that, I say impeachment, impeachment, impeachment. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome. And with this kind of inspiration, I will go and take Trump out tonight. And I will fight every day until he is impeached. Impeach 45. This is a bunch of scumbags. That's what they are.
Those are very strong words,
organized around making money. The fact that he is wrapping his arms around Putin while Putin is continuing to advance into Korea.
Well, it's going to be an entertaining 2 years. Our job, we will be keeping an eye on all of them. Now, Democrats, they're now taking their cues from their de facto leader. Of course, Nancy Pelosi, and her track record, her leadership is suspect at best. Take a look. Watch this.
We have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it away from the fog of the controversy.
If what you're doing is cutting the taxes at the high end and therefore not being allowed to invest in the future, you're doing a grave disservice to our country.
We all agree that President Trump's decision to end DACA is a despicable act of political cowardice.
Donald Trump is a job loser.
The debate on health care is life-death.
Well, I want a single payer. I mean, I wanted I'd love a single payer, but we're not. In terms of the bonus that corporate America received versus the crumbs that they are giving to workers to kind of put the schmooze on is so pathetic. So what? They're going to say, if you give them bump stock, it's going to be a slippery slope? I certainly hope so.
The priorities of the American people, and they are not what President Bush, excuse me. I'm so sorry, President Bush.
We've seen nothing that we can work, but I can work with President Bush on. The president's fitness for office is something that is being called into question. I'm very worried about his fitness.
All right, do you see anything there indicating Democrats have plans to make your life better? Of course not. They are on a path for revenge, and this is all about a quest for power. By the way, you know, Obama lost 69 seats between the House and Senate in 2010, and Bill Clinton lost 60. Donald Trump picked up Senate seats. Now, for years, one of the biggest allies of the Democratic Party, obviously CNN. Their constant, destructive, anti-Trump coverage, it's second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour. It's unprecedented. And it's leading the way. Well, you got Chief White House Correspondent Jim Acosta. And yesterday, his permanent White House press pass was revoked after making physical contact with a White House intern during an extremely confrontational line of questioning. It wasn't really a question. He wanted to debate the president and not give anyone else time. Take a look.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was
enough.
going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am. Mr. President,
that's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other
Peter,
question.
let's go. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation? Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN.
And then the president defended Sarah Sanders. How many times does the president of the United States have to say that's enough before CNN respects the office of the presidency? Many on the left rushing to the defense of their anti-Trump hero, Jim Acosta. One host on The View actually accused the White House intern, who was just trying to get the microphone back, of assaulting Acosta. Pretty unbelievable, but true. Take a look.
What I saw was a battery, not by Jim Acosta, but by the young White House aide. Yeah. When you are holding something, if I may, if you're holding something and you snatch this from me, this cup is now an extension of me. And that means you've battered me. Mm-hmm. You've assaulted me.
So you're blaming the woman in this situation.
You're blaming the woman's fault for doing her job. Well, but that's just the law.
She was so
I'm not assigning
that White House intern should be arrested for battery.
I'm telling you what the law is.
That's what you call Trump derangement syndrome. That's a mass psychosis. And without a doubt, Acosta deserves to be banned from the White House. He's earned it. He's unprofessional. It's outrageous. It's insulting. He wants to argue with the president. He gets more airtime. And even though claiming to be an unbiased journalist, he always seems to make the story about himself, rarely asking questions, treating his press briefings as debates. He constantly accuses Trump and his administration of everything: racism, sexism. Acosta is a self-serving liberal hack with zero journalistic integrity. But don't take my word for it. We've got some of his greatest hits. Watch him in action.
I'm not sure this press conference was ever on the rails. As you heard numerous times during this news conference, the president was just not in touch with reality. The people here who work at this White House all the way up to the president evidently believe that journalists are the enemy of the people, literally the enemy of the people. I'll say that the press is not the enemy of the people. And, I think, maybe we should make some bumper stickers, make some buttons. The law could be different than border security, Sarah. Border security can mean drones, it could mean agents, it could mean more fencing. It doesn't necessarily mean a physical.
And that's part of the negotiation that we expect Congress to have.
And bumper stickers? Okay, a shameful act. He's supposed to be a journalist. That's a charade. You do a disservice to real journalists in the press corps, and it's a disservice to the American people. We'll have more in a moment. Let's turn to another story. We go to Florida, now bracing for a massive recount tonight. Defeated Democratic Senator Bill Nelson moving ahead on his recount plans after losing to Republican Rick Scott. Rick Scott will join us in just a moment. Currently, Nelson trails by nearly 20,000 votes, but that's still close enough for the mandatory recount. Hal Nelson has hired, get this, Mark Elias. Name sound familiar? He's the Clinton campaign attorney at Perkins Coie that paid Fusion GPS for the dirty Russian dossier on Trump. So just to be clear, the lawyer at the center of the major recount effort happens to be the same one at the center of the biggest corruption scandal, abuse of power scandal in our history. He's organized an effort behind the dirty dossier for Clinton. He's at the very center of the Democrats' efforts to use campaign op research to malign Trump before and after the election. Now he's hired by Bill Nelson. And tonight it looks like Florida's governor race could also be headed for a recount, despite Democratic Andrew Gillum conceding the race to Ron DeSantis. Now Marco Rubio rightly sounding the alarm, warning of these possible tricks in Broward County, saying Broward election supervisors' ongoing violation of Florida law requiring timely reporting isn't just annoying incompetence. It has now opened up the door for lawyers to come in here and steal a seat in the U.S. Senate and Florida cabinet. There's so many unanswered questions. Why can't Broward and Palm Beach report like every other county in Florida? Now, what is also taking place, by the way, and why is it taking so long to count the votes? Where are serious, mysterious, uncounted ballots? Where are they all coming from? Don't forget, a federal judge recently ruled the county elections chief, Brenda Snipes, illegally destroyed ballots. That was in the Wasserman-Schultz 2016 primary race during a pending lawsuit. Snipes, she's still in charge in Broward County. And moments ago, we learned Governor Scott filed a lawsuit, rightly so, against her over serious violations of the law. He will join us. Finally, tonight, we end with a sad and a tragic story. The White House flag lowered at half-staff today in remembrance of the 12 victims of this morning's senseless shootings in Thousand Oaks, California. One of the victims was California Sergeant Ron Hillis. He was the first one on the scene, responding right after. Our good friend Adam Housley, he also lost a niece in all of this. Our thoughts and prayers go out to everybody there. All right, we have a lot more to get to tonight. When we come back, Rick Scott will join us as what we now see, the law broken again in Broward and Palm Beach. We'll explain next.
Dominating the competition. There's only one place for politics. Fox News Channel.
All right, earlier tonight, Governor Rick Scott filed a lawsuit against Palm Beach and Broward counties for lack of access to public records regarding voting numbers. This comes as a recount now looms over his race for the U.S. Senate. Joining us now, the man himself, Governor Rick Scott. Governor, I'm looking at these numbers. On Election Day, you were up 57,000 votes. What is the number now?
Now it's down to 15,000 votes. So it's clear. We got some left-wing activists. We've got some Democrat D.C. lawyers. They're down here for one purpose, to steal this election. Somehow, Governor, the Broward County supervisor.
I looked at the numbers. You were told 5 different numbers. Florida law says that all absentee early voting numbers must be reported within 30 minutes of the polls closing, correct?
Absolutely.
And those numbers
Sean, they found 78,000 votes. Sean, they've found 78,000 new votes since Election Day 2 days ago in Broward County, and 15,000 more votes in Palm Beach. We don't know how many more votes they're going to come up with, but it sure appears they're going to keep finding as many votes as it takes to try to win this election. Right. So I've asked the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to immediately do an investigation. We filed lawsuits. We're going to fight this, and we're going to win.
Well, she, in 2016, her office posted results a half hour before the polls closed. That's an election violation law, but broken. She was sued for leaving amendments off the ballots. She also, in the case of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, why is this person even working there?
Well, what I've done is I've asked for an investigation, but we have examples. The Palm Beach supervisor won't allow normal party officials that are supposed to be reviewing ballots. They're not allowing them to do it properly. That's a violation of the law. They're supposed to report all these results. They're not. But how did they come up with 78,000 more votes? Just in Broward and 15 in Palm Beach. No other county is having these problems. We had a horrible hurricane in the Panhandle. It didn't happen there. The lawyers that come down said they're here to win the election, not here to say, oh, I want to find out what the results are and make sure there's fair results. They're down here for one purpose, and they've said that, to win the election.
27 days ago, the Panhandle was smashed with one of the worst hurricanes we've seen. They got their votes in on time. They ended up doing this. To me, this is the single biggest abuse of power in an election I've seen. And they have Mark Elias, the guy at the heart of the whole Perkins Coie, Fusion GPS, Clinton bought and paid for dossier leading the way.
Yep. I mean, they're down here. He's down here for one purpose, steal this election. And he said he's down here just to win this election. He doesn't care about anything else.
He's down there to win it.
So we won. Yeah, we won. I'm going to be the U.S. Senator. I'm going to fight this all the way. We're going to do everything we can. We're looking at every legal remedy we can exercise. We're going to fight this, and we're going to win this. This is wrong.
And every other county except Broward and Palm Beach did it the right way. Every other county, and they've done this before. And why does she still have a job?
Well, she's separately elected in these counties, and but think about it. Some of these other supervisors that did it the right way are Democrats also. So every other county, Republican or Democrat, those supervisors did it the right way. These two didn't. They have violated the law. We're going. I've asked the Florida law enforcement to do an investigation, and we've already filed a lawsuit. We're going to make sure we win this. I won this election for the benefit of the people of this state. Their will is not going to be thwarted.
I've never seen anything like this in my life. It is obviously corrupt. Obviously, laws were broken. Obviously, there are shenanigans here. I believe you and Senator Rubio are 100% correct. We will follow this every single second of every day now because the people of Florida deserve their just vote, which they got. And you won this race hands down. And this is a disgrace that they get to do this election in, election out. Somebody needs to go to jail here if this keeps happening. You keep violating the law. You don't respond. Every other county responds. Then you change your numbers again and again and again. Something's not right. All right, Governor, thank you. Joining us now, the author of The Russia Hoax, #1 New York Times bestseller, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, and from the American Conservative Union, Chairman Matt Schlapp. We know a lot about Mark Elias, don't we, Greg Jarrett? Yeah. And we also know that there are laws in Florida. Every other county abided by them, except these two counties, which have a history of never abiding by them.
You know, the conduct of Brenda Snipes in Broward County is beginning to stink like a bucket of fish in the sun. I looked at the statutes in Florida. I looked at the governor's lawsuit. He is absolutely correct. She has broken the law multiple times, and it's only been 2 days. She was supposed to hand over vote totals. She hasn't. The number of ballots canvassed and to be canvassed, she hasn't. And then the most egregious is, under the law, the governor is allowed to make a written request to look at the public records of this. She refused to do that. So she has a long and distinguished history of violating the law. A judge, as you pointed out in your monologue, had already found several months ago that she unlawfully destroyed ballots, and now the sudden discovery of 78,000 ballots. Is she creating ballots, whereas before she destroyed ballots? So I think the governor's right that this looks like an attempt, especially with Hillary's lawyers involved, to steal this election.
It is a disgrace. I've never heard of anything like this, Matt Schlapp. Just imagine for a second if Republicans ever tried to pull this off. Election after election after election. How come every other county got it right? Even the Panhandle which was devastated 7 days earlier?
Well, because Republicans follow the rules, Sean. And you say this has never happened before. This seems particularly egregious, but this actually does happen. The more times they count these ballots, the narrower this is going to get. We've seen this when Norm Coleman ran for Senate in Minnesota with the big urban populations. We saw this when Dino Rossi ran for governor a couple times as a Republican in Washington. When John Thune first ran for the Senate. This actually happens more times than it gets coverage. And here's what I know after spending 36 days in the Florida recount in 2000. The more they count, the worse it's going to be for Rick Scott. He's doing the exact right thing. Ronald Romney at the RNC is doing the exact right thing. Take them to court. Shine a spotlight on this. The fact that they're counting these ballots, as Greg said, behind closed doors without having a Republican observer and a Democratic observer is completely against the spirit and the law, and this must stop or they'll steal another one.
It's impossible to just out of thin air go from 60,000 votes to 70,000 votes to 80,000 votes.
They've done it before. Not without corruption. That's right.
Mark Elliott,
Greg.
Perkins Coie, Fusion GPS, biggest corruption, abuse of power scandal. Geez, they picked the right lawyer for this one. I can't wait to see what happens here. People of Florida, pay attention. This is serious. All right, when we come back, and we'll stay on it. Sebastian Gorka, Dan Bongino react. Antifa now showing up at Tucker's home, and they are literally releasing the names of prominent conservatives. Why? To intimidate, harass. Something horrible will happen if we don't stop it. Straight ahead. All right, as we reported earlier, Tucker Carlson's house was swarmed by Antifa protesters shouting threats, trying to break down his door. His wife was in the house. Take a look.
You're outside your home? We want you to know we know where you sleep at night. Mailbox. We know where you sleep at night.
We know where you sleep at night.
Racist scumbag, leave town. Racist scumbag, leave town. Racist scumbag, leave town.
Joining us now with reaction, author of the best-selling book, Spygate, former Secret Service agent, NRA TV contributor Dan Bongino, also another bestseller, Why We Fight, Fox News national security strategist Sebastian Gorka. I'm looking at this. They were quiet about all of this when Sarah Sanders, Pam Bondi, Secretary Nielsen, 2 Republicans punched, one a woman in Minnesota, rocks thrown through the door of Kevin McCarthy's office, Ted Cruz's wife. You see these tactics, Dan. Somebody's going to get hurt. They even screamed mail bomb. We know where you sleep. That is a threat. Shouldn't that be? Isn't that against the law?
No, absolutely. I mean, they vandalized his house, Sean. I mean, this was gross. This was disgusting. This was filthy. But Sean, you know, I have personal experience with this. I've been in your studio in New York, and I've been in Tucker's in D.C. many times. I've been on your set with liberals. There have been some spicy debates on your set. You know what happens in the green room? Everybody shakes hands, says, I'll see you the next time. There's got to be a red line here. You know, I appreciate some of the talking heads on the Democrat side who spoke out against this, but this has to be universal, Sean. I mean, when this pipe bomb guy recently was engaged in this
they reported
stuff,
that one because they thought they could blame that on Trump, like the synagogue shooting.
Right.
They could blame on Trump.
Of course,
the synagogue shooter was anti-Trump because he's pro-Israel.
Yes, and the condemnation was universal on our side. People have to speak out and draw a red line against this. What happened at Tucker's house last night was an abomination. It was disgusting.
You know, and let me say, there was a report on Mediaite tonight, Dr. Gorka, that a CNN anchor apparently is receiving threats. No conservative. We don't want you. You're not a conservative if you're sending threats to people, period. No, we have no room for it. No. Now, we have over at Conspiracy TV, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow is now encouraging people to go out and protest today, part of a MoveOn.org effort. That's, you know, General Betray Us, the same people that, you know, featured elderly women vowing to, you know, private part punch Mitt Romney and burn this mother effer down, and ads comparing Bush to Hitler. So this is the network Tom Brokaw's proud of? This is this person, Maddow, claiming she's a news person? Really?
Well, she's not a news person. Sean, there is a direct line
between Jim Acosta's behavior at that press conference and what happened at our friend Tucker's house. These people are repeatedly crossing the line of what is acceptable, whether you're a reporter in the White House or whether you're a demonstrator in D.C. They're undermining or they're broadening what is called the Overton window, meaning the list of things that are deemed acceptable. This behavior, Jim Acosta's behavior, or the behavior at Tucker's house, would have been deemed absolutely unacceptable just 2 years ago.
Well,
but when you get Maxine Waters...
Listen, they're throwing up, that's doxing. They're putting up the addresses of people like me, Tucker, Ann Coulter. And I understand. You know, I will say another thing here. You know, when people, CNN will say, well, we're called fake news. They are. They're not news. They're opinion.
Well, Larry King said it. Larry King said it.
When crowds chant they suck, that's not violent. Or the president says fake news is the enemy of the people. I take that to mean you're performing a disservice by lying to people. That's all that is. They're not, and those are words. This is a call to action, like Maxine Waters.
Yes, this is the direct result. The vandalism, the intimidation of a woman by herself at home is the direct result of Maxine Waters' incitement to do this, to harass people who are conservatives, and also Eric Holder, the former Attorney General of the Obama administration.
Yeah. I'll give you the last word, Dan, but I have a word for conservatives. Yeah. Don't kick them. Don't get in their faces. If you see people you disagree with, don't create crowds. Don't follow people into stores. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. Leave every liberal alone. Leave every reporter alone. Leave every elected official alone.
It didn't work out that well for Republicans in the election and the midterms. Where were the Republicans breaking store windows in the Starbucks and attacking people? The answer? They were at work, going to work and taking care of their families. Take a little lesson from that in the far left. It's how politics should work.
They were dead silent. Pam Bondi, Sarah Sanders, Secretary Nielsen, Ted Cruz, Ted Cruz's wife. They were silent. Now they're actually organizing it on MSNBC and partnering with MoveOn.org. Bush's Hitler. It's pretty disgusting.
Not journalism.
All right, when we come back, there are reports. Robert Mueller has begun to write his report on, quote, alleged Russia collusion. Jim Jordan, Sarah Carter, straight ahead. Will oversee the Russia probe. The Democrats are apoplectic. This comes as new reports claim that Robert Mueller has begun to write his final report in the investigation. Here with reaction, Republican Congressman Jim Jordan, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter. To me, a new attorney general also means, and the president said he's not going to stop Congressman. He's not going to stop the investigation. So that is just hysteria and lying again from the left, that they weren't happy with the election results, so now they're going there. Question is, will a new AG look at real Russia collusion with real evidence, real FISA abuse fraud, real abuse of power with the powerful tools of intelligence, surveillance, unmasking, leaking raw intelligence, the exoneration before investigation of Hillary breaking the law by having top secret information, classified information on a secret server. Is that going to happen?
Let's hope so. I mean, the short answer is we don't know. But this idea that the left is saying Mr. Whitaker should recuse himself is ridiculous. I mean, think about this. Rod Rosenstein is overseeing the Mueller investigation. Rod Rosenstein wrote the memo for firing Comey, overseeing special counsel Mueller, who is looking into the firing of Comey. And he doesn't have to recuse himself? We said he should have recused himself a long time ago. But somehow, because Whitaker wrote something a long time ago critical of the special counsel, he does have to recuse. Makes no sense. I hope they investigate the very things you're talking about, because that's where the real abuse took place, when one party used an opposition research document by the other party to go to a FISA court to get a warrant to spy on the president's campaign. That is as wrong as it gets.
By the way, we have breaking news. Law enforcement is looking into another big corruption scandal having to do with election fraud in Broward and Palm Beach.
Yeah.
Wow, that's going to be interesting. Let me go to the law, as pointed out by our friend Greg Jarrett. That was a tweet, by the way, by the president. Under Federal Vacancies Act 5 U.S.C. 3345, Sarah, the president can appoint a person holding a Senate-confirmed office or an officer or employee of such executive agency who has served in a position in such agency for not less than 90 days. He has served for more than 90 days. There are some really dumb lawyers on TV that don't get it.
They just don't get it. And the president had every authority to let go of Jeff Sessions at this point in time. And look, there was already talk that the attorney general himself was going to leave after 2 years, that he didn't want to stay on. And now with Matt Whitaker as the acting attorney general, they can move forward, Sean. What we know is this, just as Congressman Jordan said, that Rod Rosenstein is basically conflicted out anyways. And let's not forget about the testimony of James Baker, the former general counsel of the FBI, who basically testified that Rod Rosenstein himself was discussing possibly invoking the 25th Amendment and actually recording, the president, secretly taping him. And the New York Times was the first to break that story. And that story's been confirmed over and over again.
Last word, Jim Jordan.
No, Sarah's exactly right. We still don't have the McCabe memos that we've subpoenaed. We still don't have the FISA application that we're entitled to see as a separate and equal branch of government with clearance. We still don't have the James Baker 302s, and we still don't have the Bruce Orr 302s.
The president said yesterday we might release them. So let's get them out before, Pelosi and company gets there.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah, that's what's coming. They're going to be investigating all kinds of other things, but this is the central issue.
The 302s,
we need to get to the bottom of.
Gang of 8, and we need the FISA warrant application.
Yes.
10 through 12 pages, 17 through 34. People tell me there's important stuff on there. Good to see you both. When we come back, Rush Limbaugh sounds off on Attorney General Sessions resigning at the request of the president. That's next.
On demand and on every platform.
With opinion shows and documentaries from the name that you trust.
Become a founder now and get limited time-only merchandise. FoxNation.com. Pre-order now.
All right, Rush earlier today pointed out how totally unfounded the hysteria surrounding Sessions' departure has been. Let's take a look.
The Attorney General's being fired, being asked to leave. It is perfectly constitutional. And yet the left is running around talking about a constitutional crisis. They still believe that Robert Mueller has evidence that Trump colluded with Russia. And they think that Trump is getting rid of Sessions so that Trump can put somebody in there who's going to shut this down, so that the truth about Trump stealing the election doesn't come out. That is what they believe.
Right on. And by the way, can you just imagine NBC News, Tom Brokaw, person that says she's a journalist, Maddow, partnering with MoveOn.org, which is, oh, by the way, he's Hitler, Bush.